Silence your radio.
It works. Okay. It's weird to be speaking and then to look at myself at the same time. Never experienced that before. So. Yeah. All right. Okay. Well, good afternoon. I think I've met most of you. There's still some faces that I don't totally recognize, but I'm Peter Darnell. I'm the seminarian that's been assigned here this summer. I've been here for about 7 weeks, and this is my last week. So, I know. It's your last week too. So, oh well, we'll have, we can mourn together. So yeah, this afternoon I'm going to be sharing my vocation story. How did I come here? Why am I here? All that stuff. So there's, as any seminarian will tell you, there's different forms of a vocation story. There's like there's a lady in church who's like, oh, why did you choose to become a seminarian? So you give her like the 10-second pitch, and then there's like the, couple minute if you're talking to someone else in a different circumstance. I figured for you guys, I'll give you the whole thing. Since I have an hour, I don't think this is going to take an hour, but I'll give you as much information as I can about my vocation story, and I'll try to keep it entertaining. But I don't know if that'll happen. So growing up, I grew up in a Catholic household. I really don't like the term cradle Catholic, but I guess it applies to me because I was born Catholic. Mass on Sunday. My mom was always the big Catholic one in the family. She was the one who was pushing us, not in a weird way. And she was very good about it. She would give us incentives to pray. So like if there was like a Wednesday night holy hour, then she would say if we went, we would get milkshakes afterwards. So like things like that to sort of get our toes in the water. And looking back, I think that was definitely, it was good that she did that, because if she forced us, then it just would have been like, this is the thing I have to do. I'm going to give her a really hard time about it. I'm going to be a jerk. That's what I would have done. But because I chose to go and I got a milkshake afterwards, I was much more disposed to actually pray during the holy hour. So for any of you future moms out there, might be a good idea. I don't know. So yeah, I grew up. Family rosary was a big part of my story. Although I remember as a kid, just to kind of tell you where I was at in my faith, I never actually prayed the rosary. In fact, when I was younger, I had a very I guess you could say a Protestant mindset, and I thought that praying to Mary was stupid because I could just be praying directly to God. So during family rosaries, I would just kind of sit there and goof off and try to make my siblings laugh and like whatever, like make fart noise, just like whatever a 6-year-old tyrant would do to disrupt the family rosary hour. So that's where I was at. Okay, I was just 6 years old. That's not like, that's not a big deal if I'm not praying the rosary. Most 6-year-olds aren't. But I think it was good that I was just put in the situation, so I was introduced to the faith, and I knew that like I am Catholic. It is part of my identity, even when I was just a kid who didn't care much about the faith. I knew that this is still who I am. I still identified as Catholic. It still meant something to me. It's still important to me. And so, okay, let's see. So yeah, I have a pretty normal life. 4th grade, my parents signed me up for altar serving, and I was really upset about it. I did not want to altar serve. You too? Yeah. And my parents, they weren't hearing any of it. They're like, okay, I was still gonna have to do it no matter how much I complained. So I was really upset about that, and I did not like it until about 6th grade. And part of the reason, well, really the entire reason I started to like it was because I realized like, oh, I know how to do this now. Before, I just didn't know what I was doing. I was making a fool of myself, and I thought, everyone's like looking at me and thinking I'm just this idiot who doesn't know what he's doing, and it's embarrassing, and the priest is upset. And but then once I figured out how to altar serve, it became a lot more enjoyable. Thomas is still a much better altar server than me, and it's a little intimidating to serve with him. But you get it. So I figured out how to altar serve, and that made it more enjoyable. And looking back, I think it played an important role on realizing my vocation, because all of a sudden, I'm a 10-year-old kid, and now I'm being surrounded by priests, good and holy priests. In fact, when Father Vaquero was a deacon, he was assigned to my parish, and I thought he was like the coolest deacon, and so I looked up to him a lot. And just the different priests that went through our parish, I look up to them a lot, and I realized, although I never said this out loud to myself, I realized that priests are kind of cool, and they're happy and they're funny and they're pretty normal. And so I was more comfortable with the vocation. I wasn't at the point where I was like, I think I want to do that. I was like, okay, priests are cool. And serving Mass is nice. I like serving Mass. There's an order and there's a rhythm to it. And there's something special about it too. Just by being on the sanctuary, it's different. Being on the sanctuary is different than being outside of it, sitting in the pews, There's what's the word? There's a sacredness to it. So yeah, serving. 6th grade, I started liking to serve. And then it was 7th grade. 7th grade was the first time I thought, okay, maybe the Lord is inviting me into the priesthood. The priesthood as I know it, the priesthood, the diocesan priesthood. And that was when a priest came in to our class. So I went to St. James and Falls Church, Catholic school. Priest came into our class, and he started sharing his own vocation story. And then all this, he talked about how he just had this feeling in his heart that the Lord was calling him to the priesthood. And at the moment he said that, I realized I had the same feeling. I was like, whoa, it just, I can't really explain it. It just kind of struck me in my heart. There's this calling, there's this invitation to the priesthood that I'm feeling. And it was in 7th grade. I wasn't super happy about it, but I couldn't get it out of my head. Now after that experience, it was in there, and it would come up at certain times, priesthood, and I'd be like, no, I don't think so, because it's just not what I wanted. I didn't want the priesthood. I wanted a number of things. I wanted to be, a professional athlete, or a cop, or a Coast Guard law enforcement officer. I think those were the big three throughout, for half of high school and then for middle school. So I didn't want to become a priest, so I just kind of ignored it. It was going on inside me, but I was able to just keep it down, and that worked pretty well. And then I go into high school. I'm just like a normal 14-year-old. I think I was maybe a little bit better than most 14-year-olds in high school as far as virtue and prayer goes, but I was still a 14-year-old, so not great. You 14-year-olds understand, right? Where are my 14-year-olds? Hey, okay. Yeah. No, you're not. All right, and then going into my sophomore year of high school, I decided to start praying a rosary every day, because this was during COVID. So I was just watching movies all day, and I thought to myself, I don't really like where my life is going. I'm just kind of lazy, and I'm not super happy. So, and I do believe in the faith. I think there's something to it. As I said earlier, I always identified as Catholic. It was a part of me. And so I start praying the rosary every day. Okay, and that was, looking back, that's what kind of got the ball rolling in my faith journey, I guess. Started praying the rosary every day. Started developing a relationship with the Blessed Mother, a relationship with our Lord. And the rosary, it was the building block, because from the daily rosary, then it was the daily Mass, and then it was the daily Holy Hour, and then spiritual reading, and then so I was doing all the things, but at the same time, I wasn't just doing things. I was also just embracing my identity as a Catholic, and and improving my relationship with Jesus Christ. Getting to know Jesus Christ as a person. And so yeah, that's just like I was just starting to live the faith. And then senior year, the beginning of senior year, I'm sure a lot of you have experienced this. Everyone is asking me, what are you going to do? Like, where are you going to school? What are you doing after high school? And I was like, I don't know. I don't really want to go to college, but if I don't go to college, I don't know what I want to do. And like taking a gap year, I thought was kind of lame. So I was like, I'm not going to do that. And then it struck me. I was like, well, I've sort of had it in the back of my head that like eventually I'm going to have to go to seminary, because this is just like it's just on my heart, and I know that the Lord is calling me to this. So I was like, wait a minute, I could just do that after high school. That'd be like it'd be the perfect thing, because then I'm spiritually mature enough to take it on, and I wouldn't be wasting time doing something that I knew the Lord wasn't inviting me to do. I knew it wasn't His number one thing for me to be doing. So I was like, okay, I'll apply to seminary. So it was Christmas time of my senior year. I decided to apply, and the vocations director gave me the application, which is a little intimidating, but we don't need to talk about that, the application. So I applied, and then I was accepted, and I just finished my first year of seminary at John Paul II Seminary in Washington, D.C. It's a wonderful seminary. Something that's nice about it, a lot of seminaries are very large. The seminary is smaller, and that kind of gives it the effect that you're a family. It's very familial. We eat the same food at the same. We all have like tables in a circle. Yeah, so that's one thing about JP2. It's been a great year at seminary, and now I'm going back to I'm entering my sophomore year of college seminary in August, in 3 weeks. So, yeah, that's my story. I think I included everything that is relevant. So, thank you. Yeah. So, also, before you raise your hands, Chris, you can speak to this, but I'm scheduled to speak tomorrow, and the title of that is Stump the Seminarian. Do you guys think if you ask me questions now, you'll still have questions tomorrow? Because tomorrow is a question day. Questions regarding this. Okay. All right. Questions regarding what I have said. Yes, Patrick. Patrick. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
I think you skipped the part where you ran to me and was so inspired by my holiness that.
That's right.
You just left that part out.
I did leave that out. Yeah. Well, I didn't want to lie. Yeah. Thank you. Yes, Mary.
Are you like the oldest in your family?
I am the third of four. So, girl is the oldest, my sister Caroline, then Patrick, my brother, who goes to James Madison. Me, and then my younger brother is a sophomore in high school. So, yeah. Yes.
Who was the first person you told?
I told my mother. It was like the moment I had decided, like, okay, I think I want to apply, like this year. I went downstairs. I didn't tell anybody. My mom was like, it just so happened that my mom asked me, like, hey, what are you gonna do after high school? You should have a plan. And I was like, Mom, I think I have to enter seminary. She was like, okay. So, yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. I didn't tell anybody. Yeah, I didn't tell anybody what was like going on in my heart until I was a senior in high school. Yeah, I never thought about that. Maria.
What's been some surprising things about seminary?
Oh, there's a rule in the rule of life, which is like, rules for seminarians at the specific seminary, that allows seminarians to wear Birkenstocks after 5 o'clock. So like you can wear them for evening liturgies and dinner, which is a formal event. So I was very surprised that seminarians were allowed to be wearing Birkenstocks. I wear Tevas. I don't have Birkenstocks. I'm a Teva Catholic, so I don't really care much for the rule, but Yeah, that's one thing. I mean, on a serious note, it's cool to see all the different personalities in the seminary, and like before entering, I had a cookie cutter image of like what a seminarian should be, and that was quickly abandoned, just because there's so many different, and it's like in a good way. Like these guys are genuinely called by the Lord, and they their faith is beautiful. They're different, but that's okay, So yeah. Yes.
Okay, so you said you saw you thought how the car was really cool and speaking and everything. And he's amazing as a priest. Were there any sacraments that you experienced that you're that were just so powerful that you're I want to do this, for a kid for me?
Yeah. There were certain moments. I had a chaplain in high school. He was actually here, Father McShirley. Some of you might have been in mass with him or know him. He was my chaplain senior year, and I love the way, I still do, I love the way he says mass. He just says it with such he's just a cool guy. And so he just says it with this love and devotion and sort of a mysteriousness. And so sometimes it would just hit me I want to do that, I want to do what he's doing. And yeah, different moments, it's sometimes, now being at a parish with priests who just Father Vaccaro will just be called to, this morning, we was okay, we're doing a burial at 10 a.m. for an infant, something tragic. And just the way the priest brings such consolation to people is very inspiring. Yeah, it's amazing. So, yeah, good question. Patrick.
So I heard a Kiwanis last year that seminarians are allowed to do small blessings like nuts and wine. Is that actually true?
No, I don't think so. Yeah, I've never heard that. Nor have I ever seen that. I think if I saw a seminarian giving a blessing, even to something small, I'd be what are you doing? Yeah. But yeah, because I don't have any. I was not ordained or anything, So yeah, and then there's different ranks. I think when you're an acolyte, I think that is an ordination. So there's certain privileges you get. Probably not blessings. Yeah. Where did you hear that? The best questions are always, I heard that, or my friend says. Okay.
Seminarian named Emmanuel.
Okay. Is he still a seminarian?
Yeah.
All right. Well, maybe it's true. Kateri.
My uncle's a priest, and he commonly gets people to just give him things to do. Does that happen to seminarians? If so, what's the most common?
Oh, well, there's one guy at JP2 seminary who the parish ladies just give him a lot of money. I mean, the dude is flush with cash. Okay. And then sometimes he'll have cookies and things. It's less, priests get a lot, So once you get the collar, you kind of get respect and you get the goodies. Seminarians, not so much, I think very, very rarely. This actually happened only one time. Someone gave me cash after mass. So, that's been it though. Yeah. Good question. That was a good question. Yeah, Mary.
Has Father Vaccaro told you his kind of seminary joke about? Well, he told me something at Easter, and it was something that happened when he was in seminary. A seminarian walked up to him and said, "Out of all the seminarians here at this seminary, you are one of them." And at first he didn't understand what he said. He thought it was a compliment, and then he was like, "I just realized that means absolutely nothing."
Yeah.
I thought he was complimenting me, and he totally wasn't.
He's never told me that story, but it is embarrassing. I don't know what I would say if someone told me that. He'd be like, okay. Thanks, Jerk. Yeah, Luca.
He does use that all the time.
Yeah, I feel like Yeah. That kind of falls under his humor. It's something that he would say. I can see it happening. Yeah, so for Arlington, there's one other guy who's 19. He's Baltimore. But Ray Sealy would be an example. Yeah, so like at John Paul II Seminary, there's a handful of guys that are like 18 to 20. There's like, I don't know, 15 of us. So we're out there. The few, the proud, like the Marines. Luca.
Do you ever have a girl attract you?
That's a good question. That's a good question. I mean, not. Yeah. Okay. Hot seat. How do I handle this pastorally? I mean, yes. Yeah. Like if there's a beautiful girl, it's like, okay, it would be nice to marry her. We could have a beautiful family. And it's, and like those moments are really important because that's when the seminarian or the priest or the deacon, transitional deacon, says, Jesus, can you be enough for me? Can you be enough for me? Can you satisfy me? Can you fulfill me? Because I have this longing in my heart and you've put this longing here, right? So like, can this be done? So it's important to kind of suffer that, but yeah, it's happened. Yeah. I think it happens to everybody. It's kind of a healthy sign. Yeah. Any other questions? Maria.
What was Corvallis like for you in the seminary?
That's a good question. It was my first one actually. This just a couple weeks ago. Qualkenbush was there. Joey was there. Where's Joey? Joey. And a few others. Lucas Dogo was there. Yeah, Ryan was there. We had a good team. And the other Qualkenbush was there. Are you? Yeah. You still have your hand raised. Does it belong? Were you there when I was playing? Yeah. I played a lot at seminary. Yeah. But sorry, what was Quo Vadis like? Quo Vadis? It was fun. Yeah. As far as discernment goes, I mean, you're working the whole time. So it wasn't as prayerful as it was for like the other guys, because like it was like, okay, they're praying, but I need to go set up the football field and I need to like, check in on this guy and whatever. But it was a very positive experience, and I think it actually is good for the seminarians to see like, like this is, I don't know, it kind of makes it real. It makes it more real. Like these guys might be in our shoes and they're like thinking about going into our shoes, and so it kind of gives us a certain like, okay, hey, like let's take this seriously. And so that was really helpful. Yeah. It's almost like a wake up. Quo Vadis can be kind of a wake up call to seminarians. Patrick.
So is it pronounced Quo Vadis?
That's a good question. I don't know. Quo Vadis. Yeah. Quo Vadis. Quo Vadis. East. All right. Quo Vadis. Lucas says Quo Vadis. I trust him. Oh, that's true. Your Italian could be kicking in.
What do you think Italian comes from?
No, but. Oh,
Definitely
Chris Prickett says German. Yes. That's a good question. A lot of it is what I grew up with. I grew up with the Essenes priests, so it's just like that's the priesthood that I knew. I think I very, very briefly considered like, oh, what about orders? And I was like, no, that's just not it. Orders are great, and I think it is. Well, I don't know enough to talk about like the different discernment, but I think it is different, Someone once told me, when it comes to religious orders, it's not always, or it's not so much a question of am I called to this? It's a question of can I do this? So think about that. And maybe that's not true. I think there's something to it though. All right, any other? Yes.
How would you describe discernment? Would you describe it something like exploring of a question on your heart, or proper alignment of your desires, or how would you describe it?
Mhm.
Sure.
What was the first thing you said? Exploring of your heart?
Exploring a question on your heart.
Yeah, I think that's a good one. I think that's a good way to explain it. Exploring a question on your heart. Yeah, you have to. Someone actually told me recently, like, discernment isn't. It's not all in our heads. You know, like, we experience discernment in our bodies. You know, we are bodies, and like that's important. So like how we feel, you know, towards certain things is important. You know, like that's just, it's not all about like what makes sense and, you know, what can we logically deduce and what can we reason about. Forget about reason, okay?
I agree.
Don't forget about reason. But like the way, okay, so like discernment for me could be like, now I'm living in a rectory, you know, what are the feelings that are coming up in my heart, you know, as I'm living in this rectory? Like that's part of discernment. That's something I heard recently. I thought that was helpful, for me at least. But yeah, exploring something that's on your heart and just like taking steps. Because when you take steps, then you can say like, oh, you know, like this kind of clicks for me. This makes sense for me. It, you know, it feels right. It makes sense intellectually, sure, but it also like, there's just a fittingness to it. Yeah. Exploring the heart. I think you had it. Yeah. Mary.
Like at least for me, sometimes like you can get like the mindset of like you're discerning something. It's like well you just gotta wait for God to kind of tell you. But discernment honestly more just like taking a step and saying, God, I'm gonna trust you're gonna lead me if I take this step. And if it's not the right step, I know that you're gonna lead me off of it.
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, it's so weird because it's both. You know, it's like obviously you in order to like do anything, you need to have a spirit of reception, like and trust, you know. But at the same time, you need to cooperate, and you need to take steps. You need to take like faith is faith. Like there is a leap of faith that needs to happen. So I guess both. Yeah, you don't take your vocation into your own hands, you know. But at the same time, yeah, take steps, and like I guess you know you're wrong sometimes. It's like be wrong, you know. Sometimes you have to be wrong. So, yeah, I mean, really, I don't know the answer to that question.
I just know like when I was in college or not, I was very much like kind of like you said, if I don't go to college, what do I do? And I was very much like kind of stuck in that whole what am I supposed to do if I don't? But I did a lot of prayer to Our Lady, and I made the decision to say no, and I kind of was like, okay, now what? But having made that like step, I then was able to get a job somewhere and start kind of following something that I knew the Lord wanted me to do.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, Patrick.
So, if you have any advice on what to do when like, you're in adoration, but nothing seems to be going on?
If only I had the answer to that question, Patrick. No, I mean, I heard recently, there's a lot of prayer advice out there, and prayer advice is great, and it's helpful, but it's also, it's all about relationship, and like, every relationship is different. So like the relationship you have is not the same relationship I have, right? So like that's why you just can't have like the perfect advice. But I will say, it's weird when I breathe into the microphone. When nothing's I mean, this is something I was reflecting on recently. Is like, is nothing happening? Because usually, if nothing's happening, I'm upset. So something is happening because I'm upset. That's what's happening, you know? It's like, can you bring your upsetness and your restlessness and your frustration? Like, there are 3 things you can bring to the Lord right now, you know? So that's the thought. But I'm no expert. So I mean, also, yeah, you just kind of have to. I think some of the best advice you get is you just got to do it. You know, just got to sit there, and he'll make it happen. Hopefully. No, he will. Yes, Lizzie. Is it okay if you ask? That's perfectly fine. Yeah. Oh gosh. If you didn't get a full answer from him,
obviously we're not going to have like the same passions and desires that we do, but we connect to the body. So how do you think that our gender is still linked to us when it's just us and our soul? Because gender is really only necessary when in relation to the body. Like the soul doesn't have a gender. So how do you think that it's still connected to the soul for the resurrection of the body?
okay, how is our gender or sex? Because I think sex is like the scientific. Okay, how is that still connected to our bodies after we die and the body is separate? And then how is that connected to our souls before our bodies are? Before we're like, I don't know. I don't know. And here's an interesting. This isn't really related, but I think it's cool to think that we're like. You probably already know this because you're going to Hillsdale, but we're all like female in the eyes of God because in the way that we receive, right? Like spiritually female, and so I like to joke that we're all called to be female. It's like kind of because just in the way that we receive constantly God's grace and God's love, and so. Be female. No. I know that didn't answer your question, but yeah. I don't know. Father Vaquero didn't know the answer either? He was beating around the bush. Yeah, okay. Well, I mean, at least I didn't even beat around the bush. I just told you I don't know, so I feel like that's better. That's better than beating around the bush. And the thing is, it's like, I could try to answer it, but I'm kind of intimidated by the fact that Father Vaquero wasn't able to. So I feel like even if I think I know the answer, I probably don't. So yeah, I'll leave that for the scholars at Hillsdale to answer. Yeah. Okay. Any more questions? Boom. Yeah. Two more. Yeah. Wait, repeat that one more time. I'm sorry.
So like now that you've been stationed at a parish, have you seen different aspects and different ways that the Lord uses different ends?
Yes. Oh my gosh, yes. Yeah, it's cool to when you living with people, you just start to see their humanity more, and in a good way. And it's Father Luke is a lot different than Father Vaquero. And Father Vaquero is different than Father Lundberg. And Father Verzano is totally different than all three of them. He's just yeah. But and it's all in just a very good way. And as you said, the Lord uses them all, regardless of, different personalities, different, it is very cool to see. Yeah. Because what I was saying about the seminarians, I kind of have this image of this is what this is what priests should be like. And it's no, it's just not true, And it's interesting, just holiness looks different for everybody. There can be someone who is just really annoying, and it's and then I'll realize oh, this person's actually very holy, like Christ is very much alive in this person. And it takes time. It takes time to see that. I think, especially just at seminary, if you live with them, you start to appreciate them more, and you're like, oh, like I kind of understand you now. Like you have like weird quirks, and that annoys me, but it doesn't mean something's wrong with you. In fact, you are very holy. Like, so that's the thought. Yeah. Yes.
Can I take a stab at this question?
Yeah. Do you want the microphone? This is a stab at Lizzie's question for those who didn't hear.
So the question was how our gender or sex transfers to our souls when our bodies and souls are separated. Okay, I don't think a transfer needs to happen because our souls are still going to be us, and male and female is the foundation of our identity. And if you look at male and female, He created them, right? Before you are male or you are female, because that's how God made you. That's not going to change after you die, because your soul is still you.
But like certain like actions and manipulations like procreate, and that's like the main part of having sex. So when like for a woman it's like to nurture and for a man it's to protect. So when you no longer need to have that kind of thing, if it's going to be perfected with your perfected body, then why would you have that? It's just your soul.
I think the need to nurture and the need to protect as examples. I think those aren't necessarily physical qualities either. Those are also spiritual qualities.
Yeah, but they're specifically linked.
They're specifically linked to your sex, but they're also specifically linked to you as a person, as an individual.
Yeah, but like my question is like how is it linked to both of your? It has to be connected to your sex somehow because it's more common than vice versa. So like when you don't have God, how is it connected to your soul when it's already like directly linked with your
If it's directly linked with your body, then it has to be directly linked to your soul, right? Because
But
we're
then,
both.
yeah, but
When you lose your body, then I think it's just, yeah. Well, you would lose your appetite, but I don't think you would lose the specific qualities of male or female because those aren't necessarily physical. I mean, you said that we're spiritually female, right? Okay, but that doesn't mean all our souls are women.
Yeah.
I think those you do lose certain qualities when you lose your body because I mean you don't need to eat when you don't have one. But I don't think it was all of them. Does that make sense?
Okay. I'm sure whatever you said is better than what Father Vaquero did. Okay. Any more questions? Yes, Maria.
I think you should guess the question too.
I should what at the question?
Try to answer. You should guess.
I should guess. Maybe I should. But I won't. Yeah. No, I'm not. Any more questions? Yes, Mary.
So this is kind of a side thing. Is your middle name Daniel?
My middle name is Matthew.
Okay.
Yeah.
I also have your middle name is Daniel, and that's my nephew is going to be named your Daniel.
Oh.
So it starts with D.
Yeah. My initials are still PD, but Darnell. Yes. Any more questions? Last call. It really isn't the last call because I'll be here tomorrow answering questions. So I'm a liar. Yeah. And maybe I'll take a stab at Lizzie's question tomorrow after I investigate and become more learned. Yeah. Hey, thank you all for listening to me. I'm really appreciative.